It was more than 70 years ago that two brothers from Crisfield put the tiny waterfront city on the map. Stephen and Lem Ward carved lifelike hunting decoys until about the early 50s. That's when plastic factory-made decoys hit the market. At the same time, there was a growing demand for realistic carvings for collectors. Well, today, their decoys are highly prized by collectors.
For more than 30 years, their story and much of their collection was preserved at the Ward Museum of Wildfowl Art in Salisbury. Last summer, a string of unfortunate events forced the museum to close its doors, and many worried the collection within would be packed away forever. Thankfully, the collection was not lost and found a new home, and will be preserved with great care for visitors far and wide to enjoy.
The new Museum of Eastern Shore Culture at Salisbury University and the SU collection will be on display for the community starting this summer. And we are joined today by Ray Valian-Gillette. She is the curator of the museum as well as a folk life specialist. Welcome to Delmarva Live. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So how did you get involved in the museum?
Well, I was the curator and folklife program director at the Ward Museum. And so I was there for about 3 years before coming here. And so when the university made the decision to open the new museum and gave me the opportunity to keep working with the collection, I jumped at the opportunity.
Sure.
So what can folks expect to find at the museum?
We intend to rotate the exhibits pretty frequently, and there will always be a display of Ward Brother birds. But instead of being kind of like a stagnant exhibit like there was prior, they had like the room to have all of the birds that kind of told the story of their career. We're going to have the opportunity to rotate so we can examine different parts of their career, maybe different species where they there were some birds that they really loved to carve and paint, and to see how those evolved over the years is a really cool thing to see.
So you want people to visit to see one thing and having learned something else. Explain.
Well, at the Ward Museum, I curated an exhibit called Las Aves, which were Mexican birds, and it was our first bilingual exhibit. And so that exhibit attracted a visitorship that previously hadn't come to the museum. And so they came for that, but then they had the opportunity to wander around the other galleries and really learn about the tradition of wildfowl carving. And we found that experience on the other end too. People came, to see the birds, and then we would have other exhibits in different galleries. And so they would walk away with something they weren't anticipating. And for the Museum of Eastern Shore Culture, that's not only my hope, that's my goal, because there are so many rich traditions and cultural heritage in this area. And to be able to explore that, I think a lot of people are going to come in to see one thing, but then they're going to stay, and they're going to be able to see a lot of different things that they weren't expecting.
And the museum's in an easy location for folks who are visiting downtown?
Very much so. The Ward Museum on Shoemaker Pond was definitely a destination location. You didn't just stumble upon it. People came there intentionally. Whereas our new location, there's so many events like Third Friday and the upcoming Maryland Folk Festival that are located downtown. And so I think we're going to be a destination for sure for a lot of people. But on the other hand, I think we're going to have a lot of people who come down for one of the events, and those are ever increasing. New Year's Eve, like so much is happening downtown. And they'll walk by and they'll see us. For Third Friday, we're going to have the doors open and have certain events to intentionally bring people in. But I think even on a random Tuesday, you go downtown and you're going to see us, and hopefully you're going to come in.
So what kind of local art and cultural heritage do you hope to feature at the museum?
Well, of course, the decoys. We are going to focus primarily on antique decoys that tell the story of the cultural heritage behind the carving tradition. But in addition to that, there are so many communities in this area, some that have been here forever, like the Waterman cultures and foodways, but there's a lot of folks who have moved here and called this area home, and they brought their traditions. So we are planning to have programming, like dance and spoken word, but in addition to that, art that represents, it can be quilts, it can be, fiber arts, contemporary art. In my time in this position with this collection, I've learned so much about, just the richness of the heritage down here, and to have all of that in different aspects throughout the museum is, our goal.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I'm so glad to see it opening. Thank you so much, Ray Valian-Gillette. Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.